Hello, and welcome to In Bed with Books, the podcast where we talk about smutty fantasy with each other and with you. My name is Melissa.
And I'm Bethany.
And where else can you find us, Bethany?
You can find us in a few places. On our website, inbedwithbookspod.com, and also on Instagram at inbedwithbookspod. We also have a Discord, which you can follow in the link in our bio.
And then if you go to the description box below, check out those links and you can find us anywhere else.
And what are we talking about today, Melissa?
Let's find out.
All right. Okay. What is it? Season 4?
Yes.
What? Oh my God.
No.
Oh my God. Is it not? Is it season 5?
It's season 5.
We've just been calling it, I've just been saying season 4 for so long that,
yeah.
oh my God, it's season 5.
I was like, why does that sound so familiar?
Yeah, that is so, oh my God. And it's, oh my God, it's going to be, what did you say that today? You were like, this season has me so horny.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it like
of the podcast or
like fall season? Like
both.
We both said
both.
Yeah.
Fall finally hit Phoenix.
Yes.
Our high today was like mid 50s and our low is going to be in the 30s.
Nice.
We are sleeping with the windows open. We actually might not sleep with the windows open today.
Well, I mean, the AC is off.
Yeah, the AC is totally off. It's been off for weeks
Yeah.
now, or for like a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then my mom was like, do you think we'll have to turn on the heat tonight? And I convinced her not to because I want to be cold.
Yeah.
It's like, I love to like get cold and just like bundle up with like more blankets.
Yeah.
That's my preferred method of sleep.
Yeah, I like that too. And then what's nice is in this new place we have carpet, so then I don't have to worry about my feet freezing. Because yes. I also I like getting out of bed and like putting on like a big sweatshirt or something. Yeah. But we're here. We finally made it at this new apartment. I'm still figuring out this situation behind me, but I'm in my chair. There's actually room for it.
Hell yes.
My leather reading chair. And it's coming together, but we still have boxes everywhere. It's been a crazy week. But it's exciting and I can't wait for you to come and visit me.
Yes,
and me either. Stay because we now have a room.
Yeah. You have multiple rooms.
We have multiple rooms.
Big room.
Yeah, it's not just one big room and then like the only way to be alone is to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
There's a couple of places you can resort. So
yeah, that's exciting.
Yes. But yeah, so season 5. So for those of you who are just joining us, Melissa convinced me to read Twilight last season.
It took 3.5 seasons to do, but we did it.
But we did it, and here we are. And I couldn't resist reading the next book.
Yeah.
And so that's what this episode is about, is New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. But before we get into that,
I feel like I'm buzzing.
I know, we're just like
talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. We're like panting.
Like Tina. Like
yeah. Yeah. Yep. But so what are we reading this season? Let me pull up our schedule.
We've got a lot of premieres this season, actually.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Pulling it up right now. Whoop.
Yes, so we have we are continuing Twilight Saga, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
We are also continuing the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. Mm-hmm. We are now on number 3, which is Gleam. And
the title that we kept using last season by accident, but we're actually doing this season.
Yes. Gleam. And then we are reading Kingdom of the Cursed. which is the second installment by Carrie Miscalco.
Mm-hmm.
And then A Light in the Flame.
Girl, that comes out in 12 days.
Shit. I need to update my address.
Oh.
Maybe they'll forward it. I don't want anyone else to have that. I want that book. Oh my God, I cannot wait.
Like, I think my heart just palpitated.
You were like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that one. Oh, I've been waiting for that for a year. I remember reading A Shadow in the Ember around this time last year, I remember. Oh, that was so good.
I think it was just this past spring.
No, we read it last fall, I remember. It was we read the War of Two Queens in the spring.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No.
I know, like that makes sense, but my brain and my heart are not agreeing. Because Nick does still just feels so fresh.
Fuck. Oh my God, and all of her teasers are making me so wet.
I had to stop because
they make me so wet. I'm like, oh.
They okay, the best image to describe what I'm feeling is the SpongeBob training video episode where they're like, are you ready to make a burger now? And he just like starts shaking so much that like his body rips in half. That's like how I feel inside.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's been a year.
Oh my God.
And it's been a year, and as far as we know, there's going to be 2 more books for Blood and Ash. And I think just 1 more book from this. From what I understand, this is just a trilogy.
Interesting.
But apparently she has hinted at writing another series in this
universe.
Yes.
Ooh.
There's more stories to tell.
Yes. So. I love that. So after that, then we're reading Fire Endless.
That's gonna Yep.
I'm just like, oh my God. I'm so excited for that one. Then we're reading Dead Witch Walking, which has been a long time coming.
I'm not emotionally ready to go back to that. Even, okay, not to like jump into the Twilight conversation just yet. Twilight and Dead Witch Walking were definitely around the same period.
Awakenings
of my life.
For you.
Yeah. And so like there were parts of New Moon where I was like, I feel like a teenager again. And I'm not ready for that with Dead Witch Walking because it's not a teenager book. So I'm going to be reading this as an adult thinking, Melissa Rose Marklin, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah.
I don't know why I censored fuck. We say fuck on this podcast.
So is there like full on sex?
Yes. Yes.
Like on the scale of like Armentrout to
open
St.
door.
Clair.
Full open door. Okay, first of all, there's not really Armentrout to St. Clair is like an 8 to a 10.
I know.
So on the scale of like Folk of the Air to St. Clair, probably I'm trying to think about like any books that we've read that are similar. And okay, so here's the thing, because I read it when I was so young, I don't remember how kinky it is.
Right. Yeah.
Or like how like sensual or vulgar it gets.
Sure.
But it's explicit, like it's fully open door.
Okay. Well, I'm excited.
Yeah. She does this one thing that's not sex. It's like it's basically like a power play. And it's something that beings that have magic, we don't discover this until later when Rachel starts dating a guy that has magic. Something that like people who have magic can do, but like the way she describes it is so much like sex. It's basically like that they're like pushing and pulling each other's like magic against each other.
Ooh. Yeah.
And it's like oddly hot.
Yeah.
Like very hot.
Yeah.
Very hot. Yeah.
Very hot.
So that is
something to look forward to.
That's something to look forward to. Yeah, not in this book, but something in the future to look forward to.
Yes. And then we are reading Passing.
Yes.
Remind me the author's name.
Nella Larson.
Nella Larson. And then we are reading Queen of Myth and Monsters, which is the second in King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair.
Yes.
That's probably one of our more steamy reads.
That was all steam. That was all steam.
Yeah.
No read.
No read. That was all. What did we counted like 16 sex scenes.
Yeah. 16 sex or sex adjacent scenes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's our season, folks. Like,
well, we've got Light in the Flame, Fire Endless, and Queen of Myth and Monsters all are new releases.
Yes.
So it's going to be really exciting for us because that's been a while since we've had that many releases in one season.
Yeah, and correct me, I think that happens a lot in the fall generally, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Like I don't know if it has something to do with just like the school year or something like that,
or just like the bookish season.
Yeah, bookish season, but then also during the spring you get a lot of releases.
Yeah, that's true.
And then we're all just waiting during like midwinter and summer for like shit to happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Are we ready? Ready to dig in?
Yeah.
Okay, so first things first.
Yes.
This is my favorite one so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my friend at work who has read them, I told her that I was reading New Moon, and I was like, this one's like better. And she's like, oh yeah. So I think it's like, that's like a known fact then, right? It's like a better one.
Yeah. So it really sucks because it's the better book, arguably, which is not common for sequels.
Right.
But I think part of the reason that it's so good. Okay. So small tangent, but then back to the point. Part of the reason it's so good is because she's really conscious of the fact that she's kind of giving a similar story. Instead of just trying to like recreate something totally different, she's like, it's kind of a recurring thing throughout where Bella's like, oh, well, a year ago, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
A year ago, I was here. A year ago, this. And so it is very much kind of like this time doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes kind of story, which I like.
Right.
But the movie does not compare. In fact, like of all of the movies, Twilight, the first one, is arguably the best, which sucks because like the books do kind of get better as they go on.
Right. Okay.
And the movies don't reflect that, which is unfortunate, but
yeah. Go ahead.
I felt like a teenager all over again. I was surprised by how much so I read half of it and I listened to the other half because work has been like absolutely crazy this week. And even when I was listening to it, there was like parts that she would say or like little things that would happen. And I was like, how do I still remember that detail? But it's because I like trauma read this book. This is the one where like I read like the first 3 chapters thinking it would be like really safe and innocuous, like what could possibly happen in the first 3 chapters. And then at the end of chapter 3 is when you get that like September, October, November, December, January chapter.
Yeah.
And I stayed up all night and I read it the entire night because I was like, I'll just keep reading until Edward comes back. He can't be gone that long. He'll come back.
Yeah.
He doesn't come back until like chapter 20.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I hated him for a minute.
Yeah. I couldn't. I refused to hate him. I will admit, I felt quite the betrayal when you texted me and said that you were Team Jacob, even though I knew you were going to do it.
Yeah, I know.
Even though I know he's more your type. I was still like...
Okay, fine. I have some things to say about it. Yes. I am not anyone's team. Yeah. I am Team Edward. But I understand.
Yeah.
For sure what the Team Jacob thing was all about because I fell for it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you when it happened. And I was going to tell you, but I was like, I'll save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
I wrote it down because I was driving to work and there was this conversation that Jacob and Bella were having. And I literally said, fuck yeah. Like out loud. Oh God, where is it? Oh, here it is. And forgive me, I never know the context of these quotes. I just take them out. I think it was after that they were okay. Yes, it was yes, it was after when they were in the truck, and of course his shirt's off, and it's like really cold and rainy out, and they're driving, and she's like admiring him, and she's like, "You're so like." She made a comment about how like he's so warm all the time, and then later you find out why.
Is this after she found out he was or he turned into a werewolf, or is this when he gave her his, so this is when he gave her his shirt because
yes,
she had like fallen off her head.
Yes,
her head was bleeding from the okay, sorry.
Yes, that part. And then there's a point when they get out of the truck and they're talking, and she says, "How do you know me so well, Jacob? Sometimes it's like you can read my mind." And he goes, "Nah, I just pay attention." And I was like, yeah, you fucking do.
Yeah.
And I love what I love about their relationship particularly, which wasn't something that we got right off the bat with her and Edward, was that they're just spending time together.
Yeah.
And that's where their attraction comes from. You know, it doesn't come from like this like need to withhold because I'm gonna kill you, Bella. Like,
yeah, or like I do think it's more implied that there's this like mate element to him and to like Edward and Bella.
Yes.
In book 2 than it is in book 1, and that is something that gets explored further. But I think I was also surprised to see how much they had like already started like kind of talking about that notion,
right,
with in this book. So sorry, but continue.
No, yeah. Yeah, I liked their relationship was really organic in that way. You know, there wasn't anything particularly that I was like, because believe me, I feel like Edward is my type, like in terms of like, you know, he's from like the 1910 and like,
yeah,
you know,
you love
like
110-year-old men.
Yeah, I do. Just clearly. And he is more great. He like, yeah, he like, I like Edward's style of intimacy. Like, you know, the way that he's always like touching her, but not like touching her all the way. And then like, Jacob is more of a buddy, you know, he's more of a friend. And so there's part of me that really likes that as well. But I just liked that comment like really brought it home for me. I was like, oh yeah, because I didn't get that from Edward, you know? And I think that's what I was like missing.
Especially because like we talked about in the Twilight episode, so much of his like the attraction on his part is related to the fact that like she's this enigma. And it's like, but she's not.
Right.
Is she? You know?
Is she? Yeah.
Yeah. So I will give the reason that I'm not Team Jacob and the reason that I still can't ever be Team Jacob. As much like I think he's hotter in the books, I will give him that. And that's nothing against Taylor Lautner. I think just they talk about him being 6'5" in the books, and his shoulders and his chest just keeps getting broader. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I really do, Bella. But they're both just so hyper aware of the fact that she doesn't like him that way. He lies to himself all the time, and he tries to like make moves when she's not ready. And like,
really?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, she definitely pushes it, but at the same time that she's saying that she can't like him that way. And so on that part too, it's very selfish of her. I will also recognize that they're teenagers. So of course they're going to do stuff that's like not always healthy for them, but that doesn't mean that I have to ship them. You know?
Yeah.
Like at least with Edward and Bella, it's like there was never a question of attraction. She doesn't have to stand next to him and think, if I don't kiss him now, I'm going to lose him. And like that was, so for me, comforting. It was that instant.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was that instant with like her and Jacob, where I was like, I could never support this relationship. Because if you have to convince yourself that hard after you've already felt the kind of like unending attraction that you had with Edward, then you have to know that it's never going to happen. You know?
Yeah.
And so when it was like, I actually can't entirely remember when this part is. It's before Alice comes back. And I think they're saying some kind of goodbye, but she already knows that he's a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
And he had kind of given her like this ultimatum of like, not that he'll leave her life, but he's always kind of hinting at the fact that he can't just keep waiting around forever, even though he told her that he would.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like leaning into each other, and she's like, I think they're in the truck, and she's like, all I would have to do is like turn my head to his shoulder and look up, and we would kiss.
Yeah.
If I don't, and she had this like whole moral conundrum where she's like, if I don't, it'd be better because I wouldn't be lying to him. But if I do, I don't lose him. And I'm like, that shouldn't be like a reason to kiss somebody. Like, there's a line, I can't remember if it's in the books, but it's definitely in the movies, where in the third one, where she says, I love you, Jake, I'm just not in love with you. And I remember that was like huge for me as a teenager, because I'd never really like been able to separate. Like that was the first time that I like consciously separated those things. And that's like the huge lesson of their relationship is like, she can love this guy as much as she wants because she clearly cares about him.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean she has to be with him. It means that we can be with him.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with all of that because I remember that moral conundrum because that is not a good reason to kiss someone. And I will say that I do think I like Meyer's. I like it when authors do this though, like when they bring in a foil or like another suitor or something, because especially when you're Bella and you're like, what, 17? Like, you need to kind of see what else is out there. And I think her and Edward's relationship wouldn't make as much sense if we didn't see her have an opportunity elsewhere, right? I think it actually hits her and Edward home harder after that. And so I feel like Jacob plays a really important role in that regard. And I think he's just, because I was kind of thinking about that, about him and how, because I remember you had mentioned that he was kind of pushy, and and maybe I missed it, but I felt like he was kind of pretty respectful of her like depression and feelings towards Edward and like not bringing it up. And then there was a clear line that his like, what did he call them? Bloodsuckers or
leashes or
like obviously his disrespect for vampires is there, but it never becomes disrespectful to her feelings for vampires. You know, like she still like respects, like he still like respects like the feelings that she has for Edward and doesn't like shit on them
until Alice shows up.
And then there was like something that happened where he got like real nasty, and I was like, what? You little booger.
And I think that too, like as a teenager, I don't know that I would have been able to entirely put words to it, but it made all of his previous reassurances feel like a lie.
Right.
Like he was, it makes it feel like he's just coddling her because he saw how like catatonic she got. But he didn't actually respect them. He doesn't actually give a shit that they left. He doesn't actually care about any of this stuff. In fact, he thought that he had like changed her by them spending all of that time together. And so the fact that he like that, basically that tantrum he throws when he realizes that she's staying with Alice feels like the same tantrum that like nice guys throw when you won't fuck them. And I will say to your point about like them being like him and Edward being foils and them like that being necessary for us to like see Edward and Bella's relationship in a new light. I agree. And also I think they're foils in that they aren't actually that different. And I never realized that. I think in the movies it's also a little less clear. In the movies, Jacob's character is a little bit different than it is in the books, for sure. I think Edward's character is pretty true to the book, but Jacob's not quite as much. But
so excited to watch
the reason I always mention the movies is because I remember those a little bit better. I've seen those a few more times. But like you still get that theme of he's like, I'm a monster now, Bella, I'm not good for you, I'm not safe for you. And she has the same argument where she's like, I don't care. I don't care. And I'm like, we are playing the same conversation you just had like 6 months ago.
Yeah, it feels very deja vu.
Yeah. And so I think in that sense, it proves that for her, it wasn't about the danger.
Right.
Because she's presented with this guy who, for all we know, is just absolutely fucking gorgeous. 6'5", broad-chested. He's like 16 and he looks like he must be like 25 already. And she's presented kind of with the same situation where he's actually a bigger danger to her than Edward was, because he's not in control of when he can shift.
Right. And he is only like 17.
Yeah. And like I think there is a little bit of a parallel in that like Edward has the thirst and everything, but and let me know how you think about this, but the impression that I always got with like the threat of them shifting isn't so much what they'll do after they shift, but what happens literally in the process of them shifting.
Yeah.
Is like limbs flail, claws come out. It doesn't mean that they actively hurt them. So like the phrasing that Quill or Embry, I think it was Embry, used when he was talking about Emily and Sam, was that Emily was standing a little too close. So not so much that like Sam actively went out and hit her, but that Sam shifted because he got angry, and because she was standing within a few feet of him, just got smacked, you know? And so like I think that's a lot different than what could happen with like the Cullens.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing I was gonna mention generally, was the difference in like werewolf vampire in this instance, which is like Edward's hunger is more of like kind of a not manic, but kind of a nervous, kind of
addiction.
Power what'd you say? Addiction. Yes. And so it's more something he has to like harness. And then as a werewolf, and of course we only really get Jacob's like transformation, and he's like young and unpracticed, but it usually comes from already being angry. And so it's catalyzed by emotion of something. It's not something that like runs out or like you can like replenish or anything. It's something that like you actually have to premeditate a little bit more in the moment, right? It's just interesting how it behaves, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like it gave him like behavioral changes, because it wasn't until he was getting like, you can kind of see as the book goes on, as he's like developing closer to that shift, where he's getting a little bit more irritable, he's snapping back a little bit more, and then after he changes and everything, every conversation he just like if we're like pretending for a second that Meyer is kind of like alluding to different mental illnesses, with the vampires being addiction, like the wolves are kind of like bipolar,
right?
Or like I wouldn't say I wouldn't say clinically at all, but kind of like a Hollywoodized version of what we perceive that to be or to look like.
Yeah.
Where it's like 1 minute the conversation is fine, the next minute his face is like in a scowl and his arms are trembling, and like that's terrifying. She's sitting there like an idiot because she's like, she acts like she's prone to accidents. I'm like, no, you walk into them. You very actively walk into these things. Yeah. And so like, yes, it is brought on by anger, but then also, oddly enough, the shift makes them more prone to anger.
Makes them more irritable in that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he used to be like this happy kid, and then he wasn't. It's like a bit more moody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I'm still Team Charlie. So
Team Charlie or Team Carlisle?
both, all the dads.
The dads. Yeah, I like Charlie in this one too.
Yeah. I think
I
because
do.
he does go more fully dad because he gets really protective of Bella.
Yes.
And I like that.
Yes, we do like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to fail to mention the sexual implications of the werewolf as well.
Naturally.
Naturally. Because it did feel very much like because I've never really been into the werewolf thing. And now I kind of get it. It's kind of like the Beast, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
It's the not being able to control yourself, right? Like, I mean, because it's different from like the vampire.
Yeah.
In that it's like more of a obsession.
There's this like protectiveness that comes with the werewolf.
Yes.
Like this possessiveness. Yeah. And then I will say we technically learn it later, I think in like book 4. Technically they're not werewolves and they don't realize that. They have like that English American word for it. But somebody, I won't say who, somebody tells them like, no, I actually met werewolves in Europe. You're not werewolves. Okay. You're just shapeshifters. Because actual werewolves do exist in their world. They just they do need the full moon to do it. But I think doing that, or the more of like shapeshifter style, does also add that second element of like threat. Like fear, you know?
Yeah.
On our part. It's like when could they change kind of thing.
Yeah. The fear element.
And there's something, and so excuse my phrasing on this one, there's something sexier about just like a giant wolf as opposed to like a decrepit zombie wolf. So I think that helps as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yes. I thought you were gonna say something about like the implied. Okay. So this isn't even like a big point, but I feel like some of the phrasing implied that like Edward had sex in South America. Which I know he didn't, because I'm pretty sure they refer to him as a virgin later, and like it's Stephanie Meyer. I can't imagine she'd be having him whoring himself out when he's like sad from love. But I was also like, does she know that the phrasing she kind of used, and it was when they referred to it like as his distractions. When he was gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she has to know the sexual implications of this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not just me.
Well, and then also he's like 17 forever.
Yeah. He should have more sexual urges.
He has like the highest sex drive as a male.
He's just frozen in them. Yeah. Yeah, so that was something that I thought about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that.
But one thing that I really like about the way that her series is structured is that, okay, so we got book 1, James, all of that happens. Book 2, he leaves, sets up the second threat that's related to the first book that will play out in the third book. Okay. Well, we also meet the threat from the fourth book. Right. And so it's not quite that like suddenly new people are like popping up and everything. There's something that feels really planned about that, or just like really convenient. Yeah. But that like actually works out structurally, that I really like. So I was just thinking about that because everyone likes the second book the best. And that's very rare. Very rare.
Very, very hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have officially read Twilight twice, or New Moon twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have read it once, officially. Read it once.
Rereading it, I did find like it was beefier than I was expecting. Like content and like
backstory,
storytelling
yeah.
wise. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I liked I felt like we went more places. Obviously we went to Italy.
Yeah.
But I felt like, I don't know, there was like more, like there was the cliff. I don't know, I felt like it was like her writing got a little bit more succinct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't just school and Charlie's house.
Yeah. Especially because she spent like so much time in the push, and
Yeah.
that was another one of those things where it was like we'd already been there. We'd already kind of like met that space.
Yeah.
But we got to see it again and in more like detail.
Yeah.
So like something that I don't know how planned it was, but it's still, it showed like an adeptness that I think I didn't recognize before.
Yeah.
Like storytelling, like structure,
Yeah.
again, structure wise, that I think worked. So
yeah. I did hear the last name Clearwater though, that you had mentioned. Yeah.
Yes. And then I don't know if it happens in the books, but I'm pretty sure in the movies it's Sue Clearwater, the daughter of the guy who died at the very end, who Charlie marries. He or doesn't marry, but he gets with. They're dating. So that's probably why I recognized it as well.
Oh yeah, so Clearwater's quite a ways south. That one's in the Quinault Reservation. Because I kept thinking that the audiobook girl was saying the tribe name incorrectly. Because I was like, it's the Quinault tribe, but then there's another tribe. There's like another reservation above it.
Quileute or whatever.
Yeah, Quileute or whatever. Yeah.
Quileute, yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know it all. But Clearwater looks more closer to Quinault, so it's pretty far.
She probably pulled it just to be safe, you know?
Yeah.
It hopefully wouldn't be real people.
But it's funny that they're like, oh, let's just hop to Seattle, because it is not a hop.
No.
It's like I looked it up, it's like a 4.5 hour drive. Like, let's go have dinner in Seattle. Okay. And then you have to take a room too. And then you have to take a ferry, and you have to wait for the ferry for like an hour. Like,
okay, Bella.
Okay.
Okay. So some of my favorite fan theories.
Yes.
And having fully reread this one again, that I support are gay Alice.
Okay. Yeah.
I love the idea that Alice and Bella are actually closeted for each other. Because even Alice was like, yeah, I'm going to turn you.
Yeah.
I'm like, that goes a little bit past platonic love, honey. Yes. Just saying. You've already decided that you want to spend the rest of your life with this girl. That sounds a little gay to me. Okay. And then also that Bella and her dad are autistic. And the moment that I realized was actually when she came home and she described Charlie as sitting a foot away from the TV during March Madness.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, what grown man does that?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, the game must be really good. I'm like, so this happens normally? Okay, that doesn't that's neurodivergent behavior, 100%.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's just, because guys are weird with sports sometimes.
No, they are, but moving in that close to a TV, isn't normal behavior.
That's when
you get invested in a game. Yeah, exactly. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't make it an enjoyable experience. And when you get into a game, you sit back and you cheer. You don't move closer and don't notice
Yeah.
people entering the house. Yeah, so those were like upon rereading. I think it's one of those things of like I've talked about rewatching Merlin as an adult, and as a kid I was like there's nothing sexual about Merlin and Arthur's relationship. And then like episode 3, Arthur is sacrificing his life for Merlin, and Merlin is like dying and having visions and moaning Arthur's name in the most like
Oh,
sexual tone.
yeah.
Like this, it was like I clearly watched those episodes before I'd ever had sex or anything, so I just didn't recognize how bad they
Yeah.
sounded. But like this is kind of on the list now of things that I'm going back to experience, like reading or watching or something as
Oh, funny.
an adult, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely coded.
I feel like that happens to me all the time now, where I'm like watching something and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
last time I watched that, it was not this hot.
Yes. Yes. Even Lord of the Rings, which I watched fully for the first time in college. I rewatched it later because in college I was watching it like academically. Like I was
Yeah.
watching it to write a small essay on it.
Yeah.
But then when I watched it outside of that context, I was like, okay, but like Frodo and Sam are a little gay.
Yeah.
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 Like, how did I not? And so I think like Bella and Charlie, they felt just like introverted to me as a kid. But now as an adult, I'm like, that goes a little bit beyond being introverted.
Yeah.
Like she full on, like, I don't want to like dictate her grief or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
she spends like 4 months catatonic, basically,
Yeah.
like in autopilot. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not normal behavior.
Right.
Like that is some kind of uh like neurodivergence for it to affect her that much.
Mm-hmm.
But especially like the way that she functions throughout that. So it's not just that like it affects her for that long. It's like, yeah, fucking of course it's gonna affect her for that long. But like we see the moment she snaps out of it, which is she doesn't even remember the people that are sitting at her lunch table anymore.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I couldn't tell you when these new people joined the table. Like
Yeah.
that is like not normal
Yeah.
to be that checked out of your own life. Not saying that she has to engage with them or anything, but the fact that she literally couldn't say when they joined the table is like not healthy. And then again with the like there's like light queer coding, and this one she's not with Alice quite as often, so it's not quite as aggressive, but like her reunion with Alice feels almost as aggressive as her reunion with Edward was,
Right.
which is
Well,
like a little gay.
yeah. Not disagreeing at all. Because I'm just curious. Because I always thought that her depression was due to the fact that like what is it, Edward's magic, like
Yeah.
something like that. And then her reunion with Alice felt more like the Cullen family, or like that
Yeah.
life, or that like Edward might be nearby or something.
That like
But
it's real.
at the end when she was said that I'll turn you, I could definitely see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
no hesitation.
Yeah.
And
Alice
I think
clearly seems to like care for her a lot.
yeah. I think too it's hard to like judge the relationship completely platonically, because she's actually Bella's like only girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because she kind of has that moment with Angela, and then the like friend date with Jessica was just like a shit show.
Yeah.
So like we know that Angela likes her, but that's about as far. Like Angela doesn't hate her the way the other girls do, because the other girls are clearly jealous that she dated Edward.
Yeah.
But there's no like basis. Like I guess there's like with Edward and Jacob, we get that foil of what it looks like for her to have like a boyfriend that she's in love with and a friend that she loves. But with Alice, we don't have that kind of like foil comparing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is kind of like really muddled.
Yeah. It's hard to know how close of a friend she is with her.
Yeah.
I do like at the end when they all voted. kind of off topic, but at the end when they all voted on whether they should turn her, and two people voted no, Edward and Rosalie. And I thought Rosalie's explanation was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I want to
That's
know
why I love Rosalie.
I want to know her story. Do we get to learn more about her story?
Yes. Okay, good. Even we get to see a clip, like a flashback of her avenging herself.
Ooh. Yeah, because she, if I remember, she said like it was something about the transition, like she wasn't ready to like be. Yeah. Hers happened like not without consent, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to give you her story?
No,
it'll still be great when you want to read it.
Yeah. Sorry.
I feel like I'm worried that we already read some of it.
And I just don't remember.
Yeah. I won't give you the whole story. I'll at least tell you what leads up to.
Okay.
So she was like, it was like the 20s or the 30s or something. And she was betrothed to this guy. He was like the nicest guy in town. He was rich. He always bought her nice gifts. He was a gentleman. So I got like a hair or something stuck in my glasses. And it's like tickling my nose. Okay. Well, one night he went out with his buddies to celebrate, I think, their engagement or something. And she was walking home late and she ran into him and he was completely plastered. And so him and his buddies assaulted her. Okay. And basically left her for dead in an alley. Massive trigger warning on that comment. Yeah. And I think it was Carlisle who found her and kind of like could scent or smell what had happened. Right. And turned her. And that's all I'll tell you because the flashback makes it amazing. So
okay. Oh my gosh, it's then you fall in love with Carlisle.
Yeah. And so like part of Rosalie's issue being that she can't have kids now because that's what she wanted. She wanted to have this big home filled with kids and grandkids. And I think for her, so much of being a vampire is tied into like that big traumatic event because now she can't have kids, which is kind of like too apt, too like aggressively apt of a kind of after effect of being sexually assaulted. And it quite literally changed the entire trajectory of her life. So so I fully respect her for like saying no. Yes. Because she doesn't want it to basically what she's saying is that she cares for Bella enough that she wants to make sure that she can be old enough to make that choice. Yeah. And I think that is the most reasonable response. Yeah. Then again, they've got the Volturi to worry about. Like, it's not just they're making this vote out of nothing. Like, the Volturi are certainly going to come for them. So, yeah.
And then the next book is going to be all about the treaty, right?
Yes. Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they kind of set it up, was like kind of going to be kind of like what the plot.
That's more in book 4, but it sets up the tension for book 3.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Because in book 3, against their better judgment, they have to work together against a common foe.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm so excited to like, okay, so like I'm seeing the pieces that she laid. And so there are a few things that I'm like, oh, I want to say, but I can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll read the next one next season.
Yes.
So okay. Clearly this was my favorite of the books. I think most people's favorite of the books.
At least when like it was in its heyday, you know?
Yeah. I think seeing I think Jacob is an important part of the story, which I like. I feel like a lot of times when they try and bring in love interests, they do it like different love interests. They just it can be really shabby. But this was like, he's like, not only plot wise, the fact that he's like a werewolf and like there's all of these politics between them and the vampires, but it's like his role in her like mental well-being, as well as just being a friend, because she doesn't even have any good girlfriends. Like,
yeah.
So that was kind of fun, that he was like a friend first and then kind of a love interest almost. But
yeah. I think what I like is that like what I like about him is that you don't have to want them together to like them or to like him. I kind of just like, I don't want them together, but I like him in the books.
I mean, if I had my way, I mean, we'd all just get along.
Yeah.
We'd all just get along just fine. All three of us.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is like, I'm team Edward, but I don't hate Jacob at all.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him a few times, and there's definitely times that I'm like, okay, you're fucking 16, 17 years old, like shut up.
Yeah.
But other times I'm like, yeah, I get it. He's angry because his life's out of his control. So, I mean, that's a totally reasonable response.
Yeah.
Still don't think they should be together. But
Yeah. I agree. I don't think they should be together either. But I do hope that their relationship still stands and like that they're able to like be friends. I know, stop.
Sorry.
Like, as friends. Like, as friends, like I would love to see how like they go forward, you know?
Yeah.
Because I like what they built.
Yeah. I do think that's another reason that like their relationship is always so like difficult for me, because I do love them as friends so much that when he starts to put those like, I love you, Bella, like love me too, why are you with him still, like it would be easier with me, that all that kind of shit, like it really just feels like it taints the relationship.
And it makes it feel pushy.
And like it makes it feel disingenuous. Like it all has like a motive, you know?
That whole trope.
Which is like, can't imagine why guys acting like that bothers me. But I don't hate him.
So those are my last thoughts. I am excited to see what happens next. I agree. I liked how it kind of like set up the plot for the next one. It feels a lot more clear. Because now we kind of know what's out there in terms of the hierarchy of vampires, as well as the hierarchy of werewolves and like the legends and stuff. I think is interesting. Like, and to kind of hear how they work together.
Not gonna say anything.
Nope, you're not gonna say anything. You've already said too much.
I have, and that's only because I love Rosalie's story so much. Like, she really doesn't get much like screen time, quote unquote, like even in the books. It's really one-dimensional with her, but I think knowing what I know now, and also like being an adult and reading them more so than like a teenager, you know? When you're a teenager reading these things, you really just see it as at face value with what Bella is telling you, because it's like first person. That's how it's going to be read. But knowing what I know now, I still love Rosalie. So
okay,
those are my final thoughts.
Yes, final thoughts. Cool. Okay. All right, well, until next week. I think next week we're going to do kind of like a bookishy episode. But we'll our next read, we'll figure it out. Because we can't read a book every week. We're not fast readers. I'm sorry.
I don't have the time anymore.
I
still think back to that first season when we did it, and I'm like, how?
We barely
mentally
did it. And we weren't listening. We weren't listening to audiobooks.
We were reading them.
Yeah. And we're just not fast readers. There's people who do that, and
there's people who do like multiple books a week. How?
I'm like, cool. I can't do that. I don't know how you do it. How? Yeah.
Like
So
I used to consider myself a fast reader, and then I saw those people and I'm like, oh, never mind.
like I'm a fast reader for like very specific books.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like a few books where I'm like, yeah, I read that in like a couple of days.
Yeah.
But like I can't keep that momentum going all of the time, you know? It just, for whatever reason, it hits right or something, or
like New Moon did for me when I was like 16.
Yeah.
No, 14. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. And the only reason we haven't figured that out was because we just had to like rearrange our schedule, and
yeah.
we didn't realize that was coming up. So we will decide before we record it, though.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah. We'll do some fun topics. I can feel them. Yeah.
We can feel them brewing.
Yes. All right. Well, actually, quick announcement. We are doing a Twilight viewing party. Actually, no, wait.
Yes.
This is going to be before or after this is before this will even air. So you can cut this. Okay. Yes. It's the 12th and this releases like the 16th or something. Never mind.
Yeah. Quick announcement.
Yes.
We have a shop.
We do have a shop.
And if you join our email list, then you get a cushy little discount to help with purchasing things from that shop.
Yes.
We add stuff to it regularly. We're planning on adding some more stuff to it in the next couple of weeks. So.
Yes. We have some really fun ideas cooking up. I really want to own a tote bag that says this. So
yes.
You'll just have to follow us on Instagram to find out.
I want the mug that we thought about.
Which one? Yeah, that mug.
If you are doing the audio version of this, pop over to YouTube if you'd like to try to read my lips and figure out what I just said.
Yeah.
What else? To be announced. We are partnered with Noble Objects, the candle company, and I finally popped these out so I can just kind of smell them throughout the day.
Nice.
Because I got so intense with work this week that like I didn't want to like light anything or have anything going because I was going to be so like in my head about things. But this is my Frankenstein candle.
Ooh, that's pretty.
So pretty, right?
Oh, I love that.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I have Wuthering Heights and War and Peace out too. I love them.
Smells so good. Yeah, I'm gonna pop it.
I'm excited to use the jars when
they're such
the jars,
nice jars.
To hold like my makeup brushes.
Yeah.
Or like a pencil, whatever, for my desk. Yes.
So if you use code INBED10, then you get 10% off. 10% off in their shop, or you can just click the link in our bio on Instagram and that'll pop that over for you.
Yes. And we have a book club. Currently we are doing Greek retellings, those books. So we have like a Song of Achilles on the list. We also have,
but I think by the time this comes out, we'll have just done.
We'll have already done it. Okay, that's exciting. And then we're doing like Circe and some other ones as well.
Ariadne and then 1,000 Ships.
Yes. So we're gonna
2 that are like the Odyssey. One that's the Iliad, and then one that is Ariadne is Theseus and the Minotaur.
Yeah.
So
yes. So
I'm excited for this.
Yes. So you can go to the link in our bio, you can go to our Discord and join the book club, because we just take a day and we just like chat on the Discord about the books, and
it's really easy.
Yeah, it's really low key, and then also we just hang out over there as well all the time. We're always there.
Yeah. With the book club specific stuff, we tried to make the book club really easy, so we'll try harder now, but we'll always try to have shorter books for the book club, and you have like a month to read it and then just one day to chat about it. It's always the second Saturday of the month.
Yes.
But the Discord itself is for more than the book club. It started out as book club stuff, but we're expanding it because we realized that was really limiting our
and it's just fun
dreams for like
I think like a lot of people wanted to get to know each other more, so it was like more so you can pop in for book club, you can pop in to take a shelfie,
introduce yourself
want. Yes, introduce yourself, and then also tell us like what you're reading, or if you have any recommendations for the podcast, because we're always looking for like good recs.
So now the Discord is going to kind of be the easiest way to get in contact with us.
Yeah.
Just because like we've got our own personal Instagram accounts. And then with the podcast, I'm noticing more and more that I'm just getting them jumbled.
Yeah.
And so it is easier like in the Discord, because it can also be like when we're responding on like comments or in DMs and stuff, it's so like it's one face, but it's both of us. And I think like sometimes I'll accidentally get into conversations that you're having. And I'm like,
sometimes I'm like, I'll share to my stories and I'll be like, like I'll panic that I like shared it to the podcast one.
And so we're trying to make sure that we're communicating more clearly with you guys. And so that's going to be on Discord.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Until next time. Happy reading.
Happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.